video. Somebody linked this earlier.
In the wake of the Union Army's defeat in the First Battle of Manassas, or the Battle of Bull Run, whatever you want to call it, the Lincoln administration brought in General George B. McClellan from the Department of Ohio to lead the Army of the Potomac, or rather to whip the Army of the Potomac into shape. And McClellan excelled at this. He was excellent at organization, excellent at managing the complexities of putting together a viable fighting army. McClellan was also young, dashing, and something of a little celebrity. And it was thought that McClellan would be the one to not just whip the Army of Potomac into shape, but really prosecute a successful war against the Confederacy. But this was not to be, because McClellan had a couple problems, you might say, as a leader, as a general. First was his vanity. He really was an exceptionally vain man who began to see himself, as the war progressed, as not just a particularly able general, but really the savior of the Union, someone whose decisions and judgments shouldn't be questioned, especially not from someone who had no military experience like the president, Abraham Lincoln. But vanity isn't necessarily an obstacle to good generalship. It, I think, often is, but not necessarily. What was the real problem with McClellan was his debilitating fear of failure. He simply was afraid of aggressive action against the enemy. He worried constantly about the strength of Confederate forces. He would often, frankly, imagine Confederate forces far larger and far more able than they actually existed. In fact, you could see how McClellan's vanity was part of this fear of failure. He didn't want to look bad, and so he avoided taking any actions that would make him look bad. But the thing about trying to win a war, right, fight and win a war, is you actually have to take risk. You have to take the kind of risk that might result in failure, but they also might result in victory. But McClellan was just incapable of taking those kinds of risks. A great example of this is the Battle of Antietam, and here I'll read a portion from the McClellan entry in the Encyclopedia of the Civil War. On that one bloody day, Union and Confederate forces waged war on a titanic scale, producing casualties at an astonishing rate. Indeed, 17th September 1862 stands as the single bloodiest day of the Civil War. Lee battered McClellan's assailing forces, but determined the following day that his army had suffered too greatly to continue to fight. Under cover of darkness, Lee's Army of Northern Virginia removed across the Potomac and abandoned its invasion plans. Ever cautious, McClellan delayed his pursuit over the retiring rebels until his forces had sufficiently recovered. In doing so, however, he sacrificed a rare opportunity to deliver final defeat to the Confederate Army.
And I know you were in a bad mood, so I didn't tell you, but I waited for like 3 hours, but then I just didn't tell you. But now I am telling you, because I think you might be in a better mood.
Why do you think I was in a bad mood earlier?
You were yelling.
At who?
Just random. Just yelling, you know?
I don't think so. Okay.
This was a recurring problem with McClellan.
Right?
Antietam, prior to that, the Peninsula campaign, he simply was unable to pursue, to be aggressive, to...
You can't hear it right now?
Nope.
I know you can't, but now you can. Here you go.
Risk something in pursuit of victory. He was too cautious, too afraid of what might happen, too afraid of what the Confederacy might do in response to him. I bring up McClellan because I think a lot about him in the context of today's Democrats. And not just Democrats, but ordinary liberals as well. One thing I encounter again and again and again is this fear of response from Republicans. I had a video not long ago about the necessity of expanding the Supreme Court, and I saw exactly this fear in so many of the responses. Yes, we could do this. Yes, it might be effective. But what if the Republicans do it in return? What if the Republicans decide they want to pack the court as well? And this extends to all kinds of reforms you could imagine for the court. What if Republicans decide they want to defund the court? What if Republicans decide they want to remove the court clerks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
You can't worry about what Republicans will want to do, though, because these people are fucking retarded and crazy. Like, it just doesn't matter anymore. You just got to do what you got to fucking do.
Yeah. I think at some point that might have been an argument, but not anymore. Yeah, you should just do what needs to be done. I like the idea of it should be one or two justices, two would be dramatic, per circuit. What do we have 15 circuits now, guys? How many is it? Is it 13 or 15? So we'd either be adding 5 or like 30 more justices or whatever, or something like that. We would add everyone that we wanted, and then we would just have it set.
One supreme judge for each circuit.
Yeah, 2
or 2.
Well, no, I'm saying every presidential cycle, you would cycle out the oldest 2 that were put in, and then you'd put in 2 more, so that every president is guaranteed the same number of Supreme Court picks.
I think it's pretty retarded what it is now. I
think it's a good format, and I think we get to pack it in the beginning because fuck McConnell and fuck Obama losing his Supreme Court justice pick. Fuck the conservatives for everything they've done, and then I think it's just a better system. Like, it'll be more fair going forward. I think it's.
Did Obama lose 1 or 2?
1.
This
depends on how you think of it, but 1. Sotomayor probably should have retired. I don't know why she didn't. Or not Sotomayor, I'm sorry, Ginsburg or whatever.
constant fear of what Republicans might do ends up being an excuse for inaction. You can't do anything because of what they might do in response. And so what you're left with is a status quo, a field that actually benefits your opponent. Your opponent took concerted, strategic, directed action to achieve a particular result, in this case, control of the Supreme Court. And now, for fear of upsetting this disequilibrium...
Or no, wait, RBG dying was under...
That was under Trump, because we got the Trump meme. I didn't know that. You're telling me now for the first time.
No, wait, I was right. That wasn't Obama, that was Biden. No, that was... Under Obama, she should have retired because she died under the first Trump term. Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fear of evoking a response from your opponent, you're just going to sit back and play with the hand that you have. You're going to be a McClellan. Now, I have a substantive response to fears of what the Republicans might do, and that is in a modeled game, in game theory, the best response to hardball from one side is hardball yourself, right? There are circumstances where tit for tat is the optimal game, because tit for tat demonstrates that you're willing to escalate. And at a certain point, your opponent isn't willing to escalate. There reaches a level where escalation no longer makes any sense. But you'll only ever get to that point if you demonstrate a willingness to play the same game, play hardball. We have a very concrete example of how this actually worked out, like this year, and that is the president was playing hardball, recognizing that there was no obstacle to mid-decade redistricting. He started pressuring Republican-led states to redistrict in the middle of a cycle.
I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know, and we are entitled to 5 more seats.
To maximize Republican gains in the House to protect him from the possibility of impeachment in 2027, protect him from the possibility of his party losing the House. And there were voices who said that, well, this is wrong, but this is what we have to accept. That we don't want to move further in the direction of partisan gerrymandering. And so if Republicans do this, we're just going to have to play on the playing field that exists. But quite a few Democrats said the opposite. They said that if you are going to play this game, we'll play it in response. And Democrats in California, in Illinois, in Maryland, in Virginia, and in other places as well, started looking for ways that they might be able to do the same, to hyper gerrymander their states, to remove Republican lawmakers altogether.
They fired the first shot, Texas. We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did. Donald Trump didn't do what he just did. He went so far as to follow up and say that he didn't just want those 5 seats. He said he's, quote unquote, entitled to those 5 seats. Just pause and reflect on that. Everything should have just stopped there.
And you know what happened? You know what happened? When Democrats played tit for tat, Republicans backed down.
Tonight, a massive rebuke of President Trump and when it comes to the president's plans to reshape the midterms for Indiana, rejected tonight by his own party. The state Senate today voted down the effort to redraw the congressional map to go from 7 Republican, 2 Democratic seats to 9 Republican seats.
They recognize that they may have more to lose by playing this game than they do by keeping the status quo. That escalation was not in their favor. I don't know how things might go if Democrats do manage to win office in 2026 and 2028 and then pack the court, right? First, there's still the political task of convincing them that it's necessary. Then you have to win elections. I had one critique that said that, oh, you should focus more on winning elections. This whole argument depends on winning elections to begin with. So, but I don't know how it's going to go. But I do know that Republicans do not expect Democrats to play that kind of hardball. Do not expect Democrats to engage in tit for tat. And my suspicion is that by engaging in hardball, by engaging in tit for tat, by demonstrating the willingness to embrace the full letter of what Congress's power allows, they remind their opponents that they're playing with live ammo here. That attempts to subvert the rules, to turn national institutions to partisan advantage, will be met in kind, will be met in return. That kind of hardball reminds the justices themselves that ultimately they are responsible to someone not just themselves. And I think it would bolster Democratic morale as well. But the larger point is that liberals cannot exist as a bunch of McClellans, afraid of what their opponents might do. They have to act. They have to risk something in order to win some greater victory. McClellan was replaced by a series of generals before Lincoln finally landed on a innovative and daring commander from the Western Front of the war, Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant didn't just know how to fight, he knew how to take risk. And in taking risk, he was able to lead the Union Army to victory. No more McClellans. We need Grants.
Now that's what I call a cool story, bro.
Now watch this drive.
Watching. I don't understand this at all, but okay.
It's a beaver, dude.
Okay.